Hey guys, this is Danny Boy. This is my Wizard series for Beta Patch 13, showcasing the new rune system. Beyond this, we just have the Barbarian, and then we will be done. I'm using Magic Missile, as you see. I'm just checking out their new order in which they get abilities. Unfortunately, I do level him all the way up to level 12 just to see Arcane Torrent and show that to you guys, and it is a very cool spell. But my god, that was, and I've said it before, but not fun. Anyway, personally, the Wizard's definitely one of my favorite classes. They're very powerful. Arcane power functions a little too much like mana, though. It's essentially just a smaller mana ball that recharges faster. I don't really see it as any sort of unique mechanic. The only thing special about your signature spells versus your arcane power spending spells is just the fact that they're free. They don't really build up any sort of resource or anything like that, though you can... I think there's a passive that allows them to build up, like, arcane flashes or something that make your next spender more powerful, something like that. Still, it doesn't seem like it's a terribly unique resource. It feels more like just a mana ball that depletes really quickly, that regenerates really quickly. But it, mechanically speaking, it functions just, I mean, almost the same. So that's my thoughts on that. But yes, definitely, I think the Wizard is arguably the most powerful class in the entire beta, honestly. Arcane Orb alone is so incredibly powerful, so damaging. They're ranged, they can cast a lot of their spells for free. Granted, so can the Demon Hunter, but more so just the abilities that actually use their resources, unlike the Demon Hunter, are really good and really powerful and always worth casting. So it's definitely a success in that regard, but at the end of the day, I don't really understand why they call it arcane power and not just mana, because they function so similarly, and there's nothing that really distinguishes arcane power to a great extent beyond just fluff and, making it artificially similar to World of Warcraft when it comes down to it. I will be using... fortunately, the Wizard has, it seems like, a larger variety of at least useful abilities than most of the other classes and far more viable builds in the beta. So I'll be using a pretty big variety of spells, ranging from, what you see now, just Magic Missile and Arcane Orb, to focusing on electric and cold spells, to focusing on being a melee mage and using that order of spells. And as you can see, Arcane Orb already just rips enemies to shreds, even with the base weapon. It does something like 250% weapon damage, and you get a rune early on that increases its radius to something like 14 yards, and just makes it hit a huge number of enemies. But he's definitely a fun class. I don't understand why Blizzard is so determined to represent Arcane using purple and pink, but it's their choice. I would prefer a different color scheme myself. Fortunately, the rune system does add aesthetic differences to spells, so if you would like a different aesthetic, you absolutely can achieve that through runes, depending on how you spec. I really, unfortunately, don't know what to talk about at this point. I've said so much already, and the gameplay doesn't really, give me tremendous inspiration beyond just being like an announcer that's just constantly telling you what's happening. I think you can pretty much see what's happening. I'm sure you've watched this sequence many times before anyway. So yes, let's see. Well, to get off topic again, I don't know if you guys have played Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning, but I played the demo for that. I was really on the fence of buying the game. I've decided not to buy the game for now. It's a fun game, but it doesn't seem to have a great deal of depth to it. At least from what I saw in the demo. I was leaning towards playing either some sort of like fighter mage or thief character, bow character, whatever. I mean, there's good variety. It's not that there's poor variety, it's just there's not a huge amount of depth within the classes themselves. The different destinies distinguish themselves more just through passives rather than giving you new active abilities, which I was a bit disappointed to see. But it's been fairly well reviewed. It seems to be a pretty fun action RPG. If you guys are interested in it, there is a demo that was released quite a while ago that you can check out. Which actually, I've played many demos over the years, and of all the demos I've played, I have to say that was one of the better ones. They give you a huge amount of content to explore while you are playing the demo, and you also unlock Mass Effect stuff while you're doing it. So I was sure to do that. Mass Effect 3 stuff, I should say. That's definitely a fun game. It's not independent. It's EA is publishing it. I forget the actual. I think it's Big Huge Games, which did Rise of Nations. I think I recall. I'm sorry if a lot of these things I'm saying are wrong. I mean, this is just what I can remember. It's kind of hard to pull that out of your head at a moment's notice sometimes. You'll see I'm using charged bolts now. Charged bolts really seems to suck. To be honest, as you see, even from the few feet away that I'm from this guy, it's really inaccurate. It gets a lot better when you ruin it, but even then it's more of a shotgun ability where you want to be on top of enemies, preferably crowds of enemies. It's hard to hit single opponents even when they're right next to you with the way that it spreads, so I think there's better choices. That doesn't seem to be the most effective ability in the beta. I switch away from it as soon as I feel that I've gotten enough footage to demonstrate it. To talk about independent games some more, something else you might like, if you're into puzzlers, I definitely recommend World of Goo and Plants vs. Zombies as well, though Plants vs. Zombies was more of a tower defense game. I do like tower defense games, TDs. Plants vs. Zombies was fun. It's definitely a casual, light TD, but I definitely really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the flavor of it. Another example would be Defense Grid: The Awakening. You can get that on Steam. Another solid tower defense game. A World of Goo is a puzzler. It's a physics-based puzzler using gravity to accomplish things, kind of like Portal, only totally different. Really fun. I played the just crap out of World of Goo, got all the OCD scores without looking guides and whatever, so I was happy about that, but it was definitely time-consuming. Portal and Portal 2, if you haven't played, you absolutely should. Made by Valve. They use portals to manipulate the environment and to solve puzzles. Portal 1 is actually free now, at least it was for a time. Valve was just giving it away for free. It probably still is at this point. If it costs money, it wouldn't cost any more than $5, so definitely check that out. And Portal 2 is excellent. Especially the co-op was quite fun, though we did knock it out really quickly, but still. If you guys can't tell, I am definitely a huge fan of independent developers, of independent games. I pick them up generally whenever I can, and to be honest, most of them, the vast majority of them that I've played, have a huge amount of content, are an incredibly good value, well worth the price, and I mean, it's a good cause for gaming. There aren't a lot of independent developers out there anymore. Those that are independent are just trying to survive, just trying to get themselves known and make a name for themselves. And it's just a great thing to see, even now, that there are indie guys out there trying to just create their vision and make the best game that they can. I just picked up Frost Nova. It's really a defensive ability. As you saw, it just freezes everybody around you. Kind of a snap cooldown for defense, really. I mean, you can use it offensively, but there's really no reason to. Not really that useful or that necessary in the beta. When I play a melee wizard later on, it's definitely more useful just because of the fact that again, playing naked and I'm very squishy. So it does help for a little extra survivability. But I'm definitely a fan of Arcane Orb. It's really fun. Magic Missile's okay. Whenever I cast it, I always think to myself, why am I only shooting out 1? Why am I not shooting out 5? Because I'm so used to the Baldur's Gate games, and Icewind Dale, and even Neverwinter Nights and whatever. Those old school, I don't know if you call it old school. It's only like 10 or so years ago. Well, Baldur's Gate 1 was more like 13 years ago now, something like that. Not too long ago, just a decade or so. Those old Black Isle games that BioWare made before they were BioWare, or at least members of BioWare made before they were BioWare, when they were Black Isle. I definitely miss those old games. I really miss those old isometric, 2D sprite-based games that were just beautiful as far as their art direction was concerned, hand-painted graphics. I mean, it was like just staring at a painting. I miss it. I do actually still play the games occasionally. Baldur's Gate 2 to this day is arguably, by arguably I mean that clearly the multiple personalities that are floating around in my head. For me, it's a tough choice, but I'd have to say it's still probably my favorite video game of all time. And if you've been watching these videos, I think you've probably deduced by now that I've played a lot of video games. Yes, I've played a shit ton of video games over the years. I really enjoy video games. It's absolutely one of my passions. And I try to learn as much about them as I can most of the time, or at least pursue my interests as much as possible. Depends on the game, of course. I'm really not into sports games, and I'm really not into fighting games. Though I have played both, but it's not really my thing. Or racing games or any of that. Mainly RPGs and first-person shooters and RTSs for the most part, and the occasional adventure game or Zelda-like game or whatever. Sandbox game. So that's that. Just bombarding some guys here, trying to power through this. Again, this is now the 5th time I've gone through this particular patch of beta, trying to get through it as quickly as possible. Well, you know, again, and I talked about crits and how they leave stuff behind, like purple goo or green goo, depending on what class you're playing. If like Wizard versus Witch Doctor. It is cool that when you kill enemies with arcane magic, it leaves purple patches behind. It's a really nice effect. This game is good. I mean, it's absolutely good. It's just there are problems. It's far from perfect from what I've seen of the beta. The oversimplification, the ease, just a lot of the decisions artistically, and removing the pentagrams and stuff like that. Just the atmosphere of the game. It's a bit too WoW and a bit too little Diablo, in my opinion, at least from what I've seen. Yay, level 5. I forget what I get. Ray of Frost. Ah, yes, Ray of Frost. Disappointing ability. Definitely seems to be an ability that should be used against pretty much only strong targets. Bosses and, uniques and champions. Definitely not worth the time to use. Even when you're using an upgraded weapon, the time to use it against crowds of enemies really doesn't seem to what it's meant for. You can rune it to make it do more and more damage the longer it's on a target. I think it actually caps at like 290% weapon damage, which is quite a bit, since it's like every second. Once it's been on opponents for 3 seconds. Very similar to what were they called? Void something? The Dark Templar Void ships for the Protoss in StarCraft 2, where they would place a beam on a building or a ship, and the longer it was on them, the more damage it would do. I forget what they're called. Void something. But as you can see, I mean, it kills enemies kind of quickly, but it only targets one enemy at a time. It doesn't pierce like Disintegrate. It's very different from Disintegrate. It slows one target. Which, I mean, makes sense, but I have a feeling it'll probably be useful against bosses. If you can really stand still, or definitely PvP. If you can freeze somebody with Frost Nova and then just cast that on them for a period of time. And it doesn't matter if they move. They don't have to stand still. You need to not be interrupted or killed or whatever. So I imagine that would be pretty powerful if you can focus it. From the PvP I've seen, it seems wizards are definitely really powerful. One of the more powerful classes. But yeah, and like I said, I just don't understand this resource system, because there's no reason to cast your signature spell beyond just you are out of resources. You don't actually recharge, like, at least with the hunter, when you, the demon hunter, when you use your hatred builders, they actually they're free, but they also build up your resource faster. It'll recharge slowly over time, but your hatred builders will build it up faster, whereas the signature spells don't do anything. They're just free. That's the only thing special about them. And they're not, like, powerful enough that I'd, really call them signatures. They're just a free, crappy spell that I could use. They're more like a cantrip, to use a D&D term or a random occult term, magic term, than a signature spell that defines my character. When I see signature, I think this defines my character. And they do not. They're just the crap that you throw out when you have no other resources available to cast your actually cool spells. But I think there was at least one signature that I liked. I don't remember what it was right now off the top of my head. It wasn't Charge Bolts, it wasn't Electrocute. Actually, maybe not. Maybe Magic Missile was the closest thing I found to one that I actually enjoyed. I don't recall. Alright guys, well this video is winding down. Stay tuned for part 2 and 3. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, leave comments, whatever, if you're interested. Oh, hope I don't die. And have a good one.